Imagine spending your whole life searching for answers, chasing signs, secrets, hidden teachings, never realizing that the one code capable of unlocking everything has been with you since the very beginning. The ancients called it a master key, a forgotten pattern, a living code that doesn't just explain reality, it creates it. And yet, somewhere along the way, it was buried, disguised, and scattered across myths so that only a few would ever glimpse its power. What if your struggles, your repeating cycles, the sense of being almost there but never arriving, are not failures at all, but evidence that this code has been running your life without your awareness? In this journey, we're not just decoding old texts or repeating mystical phrases. We're going to uncover the master key itself, why it was hidden, how it operates beneath your choices and emotions, and how remembering it can open a door you've been standing in front of all along. What if the greatest secret of creation was never truly lost, only hidden in plain sight? Ancient mystics spoke of a single principle, a master code woven into the very structure of reality. They hinted that all other laws, all other manifestations, could be traced back to this one foundation. And yet, over centuries, it became veiled in metaphors, myths, and fragments too obscure for most to see clearly. This was not an accident. Knowledge this powerful was never meant to be common. It was reserved for initiates, encoded into sacred texts, and disguised as allegory in ancient temples. To the untrained eye, it looked like poetry or myth. To those who carried the key, it was instruction, a map to bending reality itself. But here is the paradox. Even without knowing it, you are already using this code every day. Every thought, every choice, every belief is shaped by it. The difference is awareness. To live unconsciously is to let the code run you, repeating cycles, attracting familiar outcomes, thinking you are free while moving within invisible walls. To awaken to it is something else entirely. Suddenly, the patterns reveal themselves. Science begins to confirm what sages proclaimed millennia ago. Reality is not fixed, but programmable. And if there truly is a master key, then the question is no longer whether it works, but whether you are ready to use it. The ancients called it the master key because it was more than knowledge. It was a language, not words, not symbols, but vibration itself. Imagine reality as an ocean, and every thought, every intention, as a ripple across its surface. Most people only see the waves crashing on the shore. The initiates, however, understood the current beneath, the invisible force guiding the entire sea. This is why Hermetic texts, the Emerald Tablet, and the wisdom schools of Egypt all spoke in paradoxes. As above, so below. As within, so without. These were not poetic phrases. They were formulas. Formulas that encoded how consciousness shapes matter, how the unseen dictates the seen. To those who dismissed them, it was mysticism. To those who tested them, it was technology. Modern science is only beginning to catch up. Quantum physics now admits that the observer is inseparable from the observed. Neuroscience shows how expectation literally rewires perception. The code is not magic. It is the architecture of existence. The tragedy is not that it was forgotten, but that it was hiding in front of us, waiting for someone to look deeper. And here lies the twist. If you have ever experienced déjà vu, synchronicities, or the strange sense that reality is responding to you, you've already touched the edges of the master key. The question is no longer whether it's real, but whether you're willing to step into the center of it. The master key was never meant to stay hidden in temples or carved on stone. It was designed to be lived. But here is the paradox. You cannot learn it the way you learn mathematics or history. You can only embody it. And embodiment begins with awareness. Every thought you repeat is not just private chatter. It is an instruction written into the fabric of reality, Every emotion you indulge is not just fleeting energy. It is a frequency that bends probability toward you. Most people move through life unconsciously programming the field around them, and then call it fate. The first initiates trained their minds the way warriors trained their bodies. They learned to direct attention like a blade, to hold vibration like a steady flame. They understood that what you focus on does not just grow inside you, it echoes outward, shaping the events, people, and chances that appear in your path. And here's where most seekers get it wrong. They think the master key is about forcing reality into submission, like bending iron. But the true power is resonance. When your inner state matches the reality you seek, the universe doesn't resist, it rearranges. This is the real alchemy. Not turning lead into gold, but aligning thought and being until reality has no choice but to mirror it. Imagine holding fire in your bare hands. Uncontrolled, it burns, consumes, destroys. But guided through intention, it warms homes, forges tools, illuminates darkness. The same fire lives within your mind. Every image, every emotion you feed it becomes a spark, and those sparks either ignite chaos or craft creation. This is where the master key reveals its true power, in the alchemy of conscious use. You've already seen how your thoughts unconsciously mold the stage of your life, repeating loops, familiar outcomes, silent echoes of childhood scripts. But what happens when you flip the script deliberately, when you stop being the accidental author and become the architect? The fire doesn't change, only your hands do. Science whispers this truth, even if wrapped in sterile language. Neuroplasticity shows the brain rewiring itself to match repeated focus. Quantum theory hints that observation isn't passive, it collapses potential into form. Esoteric teachings echo the same: as above, so below, as within, so without. All pointing to a single revelation. Consciousness is the lever that moves worlds. So how do you begin? Not by wrestling with every thought, but by planting seeds. Hold a picture in your mind not once, but daily, as if it were already alive. Anchor it with emotion. Gratitude before it arrives. Love as if it's already yours. Because the universe doesn't distinguish between memory and imagination. It simply responds to vibration. In this moment, the forgotten code becomes living practice. No longer abstract philosophy, but a tool in your hands. The master key is not found in ancient temples or dusty scrolls. It's in the discipline of your attention, the consistency of your inner image, the courage to believe before you see. And once you choose to wield it, the doors you thought were locked will begin to open. Every great story has a moment when the character finally sees the pattern and chooses differently. The hero stops running from the shadow and instead turns to face it. The prisoner stops rattling the bars and realizes the door was never locked. These turning points aren't just myths. They're blueprints of transformation. Think of the person who carried the weight of scarcity for years. Every decision filtered through fear, jobs chosen for survival, relationships clung to for safety, dreams shelved for someday. Until one day, they dared to imagine a life not ruled by lack. It began with a single picture, the feeling of freedom, the quiet certainty of enough. And slowly, choices aligned with that vision. Opportunities arrived, doors cracked open, and what was once impossible became inevitable. Or the seeker lost in endless, awakening symptoms, confusion, fatigue, strange synchronicities that felt more like punishment than guidance. They could have collapsed under the weight of it. But instead, they reframed the chaos as initiation. They began to see each symptom not as a burden, but as a signal. The body and spirit recalibrating to a new frequency. What once looked like suffering became proof that something greater was unfolding. The master key works like this, not in grand explosions, but in shifts of perception that rewrite the entire script. When you change the way you see, reality changes what it shows. It's the smallest pivot with the greatest ripple. And when those ripples align with your chosen vision, the old loops dissolve, and a new story begins to write itself. What if your personal turning point is not just about you, but a reflection of a greater shift already unfolding? Every soul that awakens sends ripples into the collective field. Like tuning forks, one vibration awakens another, until entire societies begin to resonate at a higher frequency. This is why revolutions, renaissances, and awakenings often arrive in waves. History remembers the moments when the pattern cracked open. Ancient Egypt, when mystics inscribed eternal laws into stone. The Renaissance, when art and science reignited the forgotten flame. Even now, we feel it. The structures of the old world groaning, the whispers of a new paradigm echoing through dreams, synchronicities, and sudden breakthroughs. These are not random accidents. They are the collective echo of countless individuals choosing differently. The Emerald Tablet says, "As above, so below, as within, so without." It is not just poetry, it is instruction. Your private awakening mirrors the universal one. The decision you make in silence, to no longer live in fear, to honor your inner truth, amplifies in ways you cannot see. You become the proof of a new story, a living fragment of the master key in action. And here lies the paradox. By turning inward, you end up transforming the outer. By healing your pattern, you rewrite the collective code. It's not a solitary journey, but a web, infinite reflections within a single mirror. Every time one soul steps into alignment, the universe itself takes a step closer to remembering what it truly is. Creation isn't unlocked in rare flashes of inspiration. It is carved into reality through rhythm, through the unseen music of repetition. Every sunrise is not just another day, but another chance to align yourself with the hidden code. To live the master key is not to visit it occasionally, but to become its embodiment. Think of each morning as the reset of the stage. Before the world floods you with noise, you are handed a blank script. Hold one vision, one frequency, as if it were already etched into the fabric of existence. Not asking, not hoping, simply remembering that you are the author who wrote it long ago. Gratitude is not a ritual here. It is the signal that tells the universe the scene has already begun. Throughout the day, every thought is a vote, every reaction a thread. Fear will whisper, doubt will tug, but the master key isn't about banishing them. It's about refusing to fund their reality. Each micro-choice, a word spoken, an action delayed, even the focus of your attention, tilts the axis of the world you are building. When you redirect, you are not just thinking positive, you are rewiring the blueprint of the field itself. And as night returns, the cycle closes. Ask yourself, where today did I act as the creator? Where did I slip back into being the creation? This is not judgment. It is calibration. Every drift noticed is not failure. It is the key turning deeper into the lock. Over time, these millimeters compound into lifetimes. You realize that the master key is not something you hold in moments of ceremony. It is the way you breathe, the way you choose, the way you exist inside the unseen architecture of reality. There comes a moment when the master key is no longer something you reach for. It is something you are. The seeker and the secret collapse into one. What once felt like effort, visualizations, affirmations, rituals, dissolves into a natural state of being. You no longer try to create. You recognize that every breath, every thought, every heartbeat is creation in motion. Imagine a lock that at first resisted every turn, heavy with rust. For years, you pressed against it, unsure if it would ever open. Yet each attempt wore away the weight, until one day, without force, it clicks. That sound, that soft surrender, is the moment reality itself begins to bend around you. It is not magic, though Though it feels like it, it is alignment, it is inevitability. This is where many turn back, distracted by surface victories, thinking the journey is done. But the real power of the master key is not in bending life once, but in realizing that the door was never locked at all. The key was given to you at birth. The only prison was forgetting you had it. Awakening is not a lightning strike. It is the slow unveiling of what was always true. And so, you stand before infinite doors, infinite timelines, infinite selves. You are not waiting for the future to arrive. You are remembering that you were the author all along, and the script is still wet with ink. The final turn of the master key is this: to live not as someone becoming, but as someone who has already become. From that point forward, creation is no longer a secret. It is your nature. If you followed this journey, you already know. The master key was never about gaining something new. It was about remembering what was hidden inside you all along. The forgotten code of creation isn't locked in ancient temples or dusty manuscripts. It lives in your breath, your choices, your awareness. So pause. Look around you right now. The reality surrounding you is not random. It's a mirror, responding faithfully to the story you whisper beneath your thoughts. And here's the secret most will never hear. The mirror doesn't resist. It doesn't argue. It simply reflects. Change the whisper, and the reflection must obey. This is why the ancients guarded this teaching so closely. Once you know the code, there is no going back to sleep. You cannot unsee the pattern. And that's where your true power begins. Not in theory, but in practice. In the way you choose, right now, to step through the next door. If this message resonated with you, it means the key is already turning in your hand. Don't stop here. Go deeper. Watch our other explorations of the hidden laws and timeless truths, because every step reveals more of the architecture of your reality. The door was always open. All that's left is to walk through.